Whenever a massive Hollywood blockbuster with a female lead underperforms at the box office or just gets roasted on, there is a very specific, very comfortable narrative that the studios tend.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's almost clockwork.
It is. It's the internet trolls' defense.
Right. The angry men in their parents' basements argument.
Exactly. It's this idea that if people don't like the movie, it's not because of the pacing or the dialogue or, the terrible CGI. No.
It's because of misogyny.
It's because of misogyny. And the studio gets to frame the failure as actually being a kind of, see, we were just too progressive.
It's a very convenient shield, isn't it? It lets you categorize all criticism as just hate speech, which essentially lets the writers and the directors completely off the hook for any actual storytelling failures.
But we have a stack of research here today, and specifically a really biting cultural critique by Marina McBain that suggests something completely different is going on. And honestly, it's a little counterintuitive. It
really is.
Because according to the data and the commentary we're looking at, the biggest critics of modern Hollywood's strong female characters, the people checking out of these movies the fastest, they aren't the angry men in basements.
They're women.
They're women.
And that right there is the central tension we're going to be exploring today. It is a fascinating paradox. I mean, Hollywood has spent the last decade, maybe even 15 years, aggressively engineering content to appeal to female audiences.
Oh, for sure. It's a huge marketing push.
A huge one. They are trying to create empowerment on an industrial scale, but the very demographic they're courting is looking at the final product and saying, no thanks.
Or worse, they're saying, this feels fake. This is annoying. This actually feels patronizing.
Which is, from a purely business perspective, a total disaster.
It's a complete failure. You build a product specifically for a customer and that customer. So our mission for this deep dive is to really figure out why. Why is there this mass connect? Is it really about hating strong women, or have we just forgotten how to write human beings?
Well, to answer that, we're going to dissect what McBain calls the girl bossification of cinema. We're going to be looking at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Star Wars sequels, and of course, the recent wave of Disney live action.
All the big ones.
All the big ones. And we're going to trace how a corporate slogan, something you'd see on a t-shirt, somehow morphed into a screenwriting disaster.
And just to set the tone here, I'm genuinely curious because on paper, I should be the target audience. I grew up wanting to see badass women on most did.
Of course.
So why does watching some of the movies feel less like an adventure and more like, I don't know, like I'm being scolded or like I'm doing homework I didn't want to do?
Well, according to McBain's critique, it's because Hollywood has constrained with, frankly, bad writing. And to understand how we got here, we actually have to leave the movie theater.
Where are we going?
We have to go back to the early 2010s corporate. We need to talk about the origin of the term girl boss.
Oh, the girl boss. I feel like I can mentally picture the font. It's definitely cursive, probably.
Maybe on a background of palm leaves?
Yes, maybe on a mug, or at least one I've seen in a gift shop.
I think we all owned a planner with that vibe at some point.
I plead.
That's exactly the point. McBain highlights that girl boss didn't start as a movie trope. It started as a genuinely motivational movement.
Right. It was about ambition in the workplace.
Exactly. Think back to 2014. It was the era of Sophia Amoruso's book, #GirlBoss. It was Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In. The whole conversation was about breaking into the C-suite, taking a seat at the table, and closing the wage gap.
Right. So it was economic. It was about navigating a very real male-dominated corporate structure and saying, hey, I belong here, and actually I'm going to run it.
Precisely. It was about agency. But then, as it always does,
Capitalism got
involved.
Yeah.
And the movement shifted from women leading companies to women buying things. It became commodified. A product. The entire philosophy was stripped of its nuance. The hard work, the structural barriers, all the difficult stuff. And it was just plastered onto t-shirts, notebooks, and water bottles.
The whole future is female era of merch where you could literally buy your empowerment at Target for $12.99.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And McBain makes a really biting observation here that I think is crucial for understanding the cynicism people feel now. Mm-hmm. She points out the incredible irony of these major corporations selling pink girl power t-shirts. That were almost certainly manufactured in sweatshop by underpaid women in developing nations.
Ooh. Yeah, when you put it that way, it really does highlight the hollowness of it all. It became a surface-level aesthetic of progressivism. Look how empowering our brand is, while the system underneath remains the same.
And that is the exact mindset that Hollywood adopted. McBain argues that the big studios latched onto this commodified surface-level version of feminism. They saw the trend, they saw the mugs and the t-shirts, and they thought, okay, we need this in our scripts.
But they didn't get the substance.
Not at all. So instead of writing complex human beings who happen to be women, they just apply that same slogan logic to their characters. They basically created a checklist.
Okay, let's unpack this check. Because I swear, once you hear these tropes, you cannot unsee them. It ruins every movie you watch because you just start ticking boxes in your head.
It's true.
So what are the ingredients? What makes up the Hollywood girl boss?
According to our source, there are 4 main pillars that really define this archetype. And the first one is hyper-competent. The character is tough and confident from the very first second she is on screen. There is no learning curve. She just arrives fully formed.
Right. She doesn't need to train. She just instinctively knows how to fly the alien spaceship or hack the government mainframe or beat up the entire Special Forces team immediately.
Exactly. Which narratively gives her nowhere to go. If you start at the top, what's the journey?
There isn't one. Okay, so that's pillar 1. What's the second?
The second pillar is anti-femininity. And this is a big one. It's a little insidious, actually. The writers often code strength as hating girly things.
Oh, totally. The source mentions the drink order thing, right?
Yeah.
That trope where the cool girl would never, ever order a cos glass of wine.
Never. She only drinks whiskey, neat.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe a cheap beer straight from the bottle. Because the writer's minds, and this is ironically a very outdated, almost patriarchal mindset, cocktail are for wussy, and this woman has to be one of the guys.
So she has to reject traditional femininity to be taken seriously?
She has to perform mass in a way.
It's the I'm not like other girls syndrome, just written directly into the script. I don't like pink, I like punching. But what's insidious about it is that it's telling women that the things they might actually enjoy are signs of weakness.
Which is a terrible message. And it leads directly to the third point on the checklist. Superiority. She isn't just good, she is always the smartest, strongest person in the room. And she usually treats everyone else with this sort of level of disdain or sarcasm. Like she's annoyed she has to deal with all these idiots.
Right. She's above it all. Okay, and last one.
And finally, and this is where the Hollywood hypocrisy really shines, she must possess physical perfection.
This is the one that always gets. Yes.
You can be a gritty warrior living in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, fighting zombies or aliens for weeks on end.
But your blowout is fresh, your makeup is flawless, and your tactical suit is tailored perfectly to your body.
McBain points out that while the attitude has changed, the male gaze hasn't really left the building. We've traded the damsel in distress for the girl boss, but the packaging is still designed to be looked at.
It's still for consumption.
Absolutely. She might be beating up the bad guys, but she's doing it in a skin-tight suit that probably has some push-up padding. It's a very mixed message. Be tough, act like a man, but for God's sake, look like a supermodel while you do it.
The source draws a really interesting comparison, and it's within the Marvel universe. It really illustrates her.
You're talking about the evolution from Black Widow to Captain Marvel.
Exactly. It's the perfect case.
It really is. It shows how Hollywood tried to fix a problem, but just swung the pendulum way too far in the other direction. If you look at the early MCU, Iron Man 2, the first Avengers movie, Black Widow was incredibly sexual. McBain notes the camera angles, they were often filming from the waist down. There was that whole focus on the unzipping of the suit.
It was very obvious. It was very clearly catering to a teenage male audience.
No question.
Yeah.
And people complained about that, and rightfully so. It felt cheap. It undermined her character as a super spy. So the industry said, okay, we hear you. No more objectification. We're giving you a corrective. And this is what McBain calls the girl bossification blueprint. Captain Marvel arrived. And she isn't sexualized in that same explicit way. She's not posing for the camera, but in their attempt to make her strong, they just stripped her of all her humanity.
She became a symbol instead of a person.
A symbol of what they thought strength was. She's arrogant, she's sarcastic, she seems to hate everyone she interacts with, especially the men, and crucially, she possesses zero weak none.
And that's the kicker, isn't it? It's not that audiences hated her being powerful. I mean, people love powerful characters. We love Sarah Connor. We love Ripley in Alien.
Icons.
Right. It's that she was boring and kind of a jerk.
Boring and abrasive. And this brings us right to the core of why these characters fail to connect with audiences. It's what the source calls the likability trap.
A likability trap. Explain that.
McBain argues that modern writers are absolutely terrified to make their female characters unlikable or flawed or weak in any way. They are so scared of the Twitter backlash.
They think any flaw will be seen as sex.
Precisely. They think that if a woman shows a moment of weakness or makes a mistake or, heaven forbid, is the butt of a joke, it will be interpreted as anti-feminist.
So they overcorrect. They just strip them of all personality until they're these perfect stats.
They become symbols, not people. And the perfect example of this is Wonder Woman. Now, the first movie was generally well received.
I like the first one.
Most people did, because she had that fish-out-of-water naivety that was really charming. But the characterization in the later ensemble films, it just falls right into this trap. McBain calls her the embodiment of a soggy cardboard box.
Wow, that is evocative. But I know exactly.
You do, right. Think about the team dynamic in Justice or Batman v Superman. When the other characters, usually the men like Flash or Aquaman, are joking around, having fun, showing some camaraderie, what is Wonder Woman doing?
She's usually standing in the corner, arms crossed, looking deadly serious. Maybe she rolls her eyes at how childish the men are being.
Exactly. She's the designated plank of wood in the room. She never relaxes. She never smiles unless it's this sort of benevolent, superior smile. And McBain's argument is that this makes it completely impossible to relate to.
Because we don't relate to perfection.
We relate to struggle. We relate to people who try and fail and get back up. We relate to people who have a sense of humor about themselves. If you remove the struggle and you remove the humor, you remove the audience's reason to care.
This leads us directly into the whole Mary Sue prop. Now, I know that term gets thrown around a lot online, and sometimes it's used unfairly just to bash any competent woman.
It's definitely become a loaded term.
But in a literary sense, it does have a specific meaning.
It does, and it's important to separate the literary term from the internet insult. A Mary Sue is a character, usually female, though not always, who is just inexplicably competent at everything she does. She's universally loved by all the good guys. She lacks any meaningful flaws.
And the universe itself seems to bend around her to make her...
Exactly. And the source highlights a really controversial example of this, the contrast between Bruce Banner and She-Hulk.
Oh boy. The She-Hulk discourse. I remember this vividly. The show was trying to make a very specific point about female ink, right?
It was. And let's look at the execution of that point, because that is what McBain is critiquing. We know Bruce Banner's story. We have watched it play out for a decade across multiple films.
They've seen the struggle.
We have seen 15 years of a traumatic psychological battle with the Hulk. He was hunted by the government. He attempted suicide, which was a line in the first Avengers movie. He lived in isolation in third world countries.
Right. His whole life was defined by this curse.
He had to master his anger, because if he slipped up for a second, he literally destroyed entire cities and hurt the people he loved. It was a life or death struggle.
It wasn't just a quirk, it was a monster living inside him that he had to...
Exactly. Then we have She-Hulk. In the show, she gets the powers, she masters her transformation, almost
like within the first...
And when Bruce, coming from a place of genuine care and years of experience, tries to teach her how to control it, she just dismisses him. She explicitly says she's better at controlling her anger than him.
Because she's a woman, and she has to deal with mansplaining and catcalling in her daily life.
Right. And McBain's critique here isn't saying that women don't deal with those things. Obviously they do. The critique is a narrative.
It's about storytelling.
It's about storytelling. By comparing the annoyance of being catcalled to the deep existential trauma of being a literal monster who murders people if his heart rate goes up.
Yeah.
It feels completely unearned.
It trivializes his journey.
It trivializes the male character's 15 years of suffering just to make a quick political point.
And it feels like a shortcut for her character. It's the writer saying, look, we don't need to show you her struggle. She's a woman, therefore she is automatically better at emotional regulation than the man.
Which honestly feels like a really weird and broad generalization to make about half the population. And it creates a character who doesn't need to learn anything. If she's already perfect in episode 1, where is the story? Where is the growth? If the hero starts the story already at the finish line, why are we watching the race?
We see this exact same problem in Star Wars too with Rey.
Oh, absolutely.
The source makes a football analogy here that I thought was brilliant. It really clicked for me.
It's a great analogy because it makes it so clear. Imagine you have never played sports in your life. You walk onto a pitch, you kick a football for the very first time.
Okay.
You kick it once. And then 2 hours later, you're playing professionally for Manchester United, and you're running circles around Cristiano Ronaldo.
That would be absurd. It would completely break the reality of the movie. You'd be watching and go, come on, that's not how skill works. That's not how anything works.
That is essentially Rey's arc in the sequel trilogy. She discovers the Force exists, and within the same movie, sometimes within a matter of hours, she is going toe-to-toe with Kylo Ren,
who is a trained dark side warrior with Skywalker blood, who has been training his whole life.
His whole life.
Yeah.
And she just matched. Then she's using advanced Force techniques like the Jedi mind trick without any training whatsoever. By the end of the trilogy, she gains the power to literally resurrect the dead.
So the problem isn't that she's powerful. Luke becomes powerful. The problem is that she didn't earn it. There was no process.
Exactly. Compare that to Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy. In Empire Strikes Back, he goes to train with Yoda, and he's terrible at it. He fails. He gets beat up. He's impatient. He gets his hand cut off.
He's kind of whiny.
He's very whiny. Or look at Anakin in the prequel, who is flawed and arrogant and made huge mistakes. Rey just downloads the skill. And McBain argues that this completely destroys the stakes of the story. It's like playing a video game with all the cheat codes turned on.
It's fun for 5 minutes to be invincible, but it's not a compelling story to watch for 2 hours.
Not at all.
And it also sends a really weird message to the audience, doesn't it? Especially to young girls. I think the live-action Mulan remake is maybe the biggest offender here. That one really...
The Mulan remake is perhaps the most tragic example of a movie completely missing the point of its own source material.
Completely. Think about the original anime. Why did we all love Mulan? Was she strong at the beginning?
No. She was a disaster. She was clumsy. She was bad at all her chores. She couldn't fight. She was totally, completely ordinary.
That was the whole point. That was why it was so inspiring. She succeeded because she used her brain and she simply worked harder than everyone else. I'll Make a Man Out of is literally the best training montage in cinema for...
It shows the work. It was a story about meritocracy. It was a deeply democratic message. Anyone, even a girl in a deeply patriarchal society, can rise to the top through pure hard work and determination.
But what did the remake do?
They gave her magic.
They gave her ki.
They gave her ki. In the remake, she was born with inherent superhero powers. She was beating up grown men when she was a little kid. She didn't struggle in the army. Her whole challenge was having to hide how great she was from the start.
Which completely flips the message on its head.
It totally inverts it. It changes the moral from anyone can be a hero if they work hard to you can be a hero, but only if you are born special and gifted. It turns a story about merit into a story about aristocracy. It's elitist.
And it's actually, as the source points out, kind of anti-feminist. It suggests a woman can't actually compete with men on a level playing field unless she has secret magic powers to help her.
It's amazing how, in an attempt to be more progressive, they ended up being more regressive.
And speaking of regressive, let's pivot a little to how these movies treat men, because there's this recurring theme in the source that modern Hollywood seems to think the only way to make a woman look strong is to make all the men around her look dumb.
It's the zero-sum game of gender dynamic. The writers seem to believe that competence is this finite resource in the script. If the woman has it, the man must lose it. You can't have two competent people in the same room if they're different genders.
The source brings up the Barbie movie here. Now, full disclosure, the source says they loved the movie overall. It was fun, it was colorful, very smart.
A huge success.
But they had a pretty big bone to pick with how the Kens were portrayed.
Right. And the criticism isn't that the movie existed or that it was a satire. It's that the Kens were portrayed as having, and I'm quoting the source here, the IQ of a fart.
That's a good line.
It is, but it's true. They were clueless, they were powerless, they were completely dependent. Now, I get the counter-argument. It's a satire. It's just reversing the roles of the real world to make a point, and that's a valid take.
Sure.
But McBain argues this is becoming a pattern that extends way beyond satire. It's becoming a form of lazy feminism. It's just easy to write a character who looks smart when everyone standing next to them is a complete idiot.
We saw this in the 2016 Ghostbusters, too. The secretary character, played by Chris Hemsworth, he wasn't just, not a scientist. He was barely functional.
He couldn't answer a phone. He thought the glass in his glasses was a lens cap.
It was just too much. It's a cheap narrative trick. Real strength doesn't require contrast of weakness. You don't need to dim someone else's light to let yours shine brighter.
But modern scripts do this constantly, and it gets worse. Sometimes they don't just make the men dumb. They actively attack the established male heroes that the audience already loves.
This goes back to She-Hulk again, doesn't it? There was that one line that just exploded online.
The line, saving the world is for narcissists.
Yeah, that one.
That line caused a massive backlash, and for very good reason. Think about the context of the MCU. This entire universe is built on the backs of characters like Tony Stark and Steve Rogers,
who literally died saving the world. Both of them.
Exactly. Tony Stark sacrificed his own life, leaving his young daughter behind to save the entire universe. Captain America gave up his life, his chance at a future in his own way.
Yeah.
To have a new character come in and casually label that ultimate sacrifice as narcissism.
It's insulting. It's a slap in the face to the audience.
It is. It alienates the very audience you're trying to court. It feels like the writers are resentful of the legacy characters and want to tear them down.
Like they feel they have to tear them down to prop up the new ones. But you don't have to do that. You can have partners. You can have mentorship. You can have teamwork.
And that brings us to what McBain calls the golden standard of how to do this right. The antidote to the girl boss.
Hermione Granger.
Hermione Granger.
Yes. Everyone loves Hermione, male fans, female fans. She's just this universally beloved character.
But let's really analyze why that is. Is she smart?
Yes.
Is she arguably the most competent person in the trio?
Oh, without a doubt. Harry and Ron would have died in book one without her. Probably on Patty, that is.
It's an absolute fact. But is she perfect?
No, not at all.
Far from it. She is bossy. She's a know-it-all. She can be really neurotic. She panics under pressure sometimes. Remember the devil's snare in the first book? She completely freezes up.
And crucially, she is not above Harry and Ron. It's a partnership.
It's a partnership. Harry has the courage and the destiny. Ron has the heart and the, wizarding world street smarts. Hermione has the intellect. They need each other to succeed.
She doesn't spend 7 books turning to Harry and saying, "You know I'm smarter than you, right? You know you'd be dead without me, you idiot."
Exactly. She doesn't need to verbalize her dominance or superiority. She just is competent. And her friends are competent in a different way. It's about balance. And that is what audiences actually want. They want equality, not superiority.
But Hollywood just seems to struggle with that distinction. You can see it so clearly in that famous girl powers in Endgame.
The A-Force scene.
The A-Force, where all the women on the battlefield just happen to land in the exact same square footage of dirt at the exact same time to pose for the camera.
It was so jarring. McBain describes it perfectly in her critique.
Yeah.
She says it felt like a classroom poster with a motivational quote on it.
That's perfect.
It didn't feel earned.
Yeah.
It felt manufactured. It stopped the entire movie dead in its tracks. Just to say, look, women and the audience, and I mean even the women in the audience,
Did feel
because they knew they were being pandered to. It took you completely out of the story.
It's the difference between showing and telling. Show us they're all badasses by having them fight. Don't just pose them for a photo op in the middle of a war.
Exactly.
But there's another layer to this girl boss armor that I found really interesting in the It's not just about how they treat men. It's about how they treat femininity itself.
This is what the source calls the war on femininity. There is this pervasive trope in modern screenwriting that for a woman to be taken seriously as a strong character, she must reject anything and everything that is traditionally feminine.
The unisex ponytail effect.
Right. The uniform. If you want to be an action star, you strip away the makeup, you put on a tank top, you act like a tomboy. You have to adopt masculine traits to be seen as valuable.
And McBain points to Claire from Jurassic World as a prime example of this weird internal conflict that Hollywood seems to have.
Oh, poor Claire.
Yeah.
In the first movie, she's a corporate executive. She runs the park. And she's wearing a pristine white suit and heels.
And everyone made fun of the heels, right? How is she running from a T-Rex in heel?
Which, was a fair critique of the logic of that scene. Sure, running in heels is hard. But look at the overcorrection they made in the sequel.
Oh, yeah.
They reacted to that criticism by completely stripping her of her business attire. They put her in practical gear, they smeared mud on her face, and they made her into a generic, gritty adventurer.
So the message seems to be, you can be a CEO in heel, or you can be a survivor in boots, but you can't be both. Girly means weak. Gritty means strong.
It's this underlying idea that feminine traits are inherently lesser. And you see this even more aggressively when it comes to the subject of romance.
Oh, the demonization of romance. This is a huge part of the modern girl boss identity. And you just have to look at the marketing for the new live-action Snow White.
Oh, the interviews. We've all seen the clips on social media.
She won't be saved by a prince. She's not dreaming about true love. She's dreaming of being the leader she knows she can.
They frame the desire for love as something embarrassing, like it's something anti-feminist that we need to evolve past. The narrative is, a strong woman doesn't need a man. She dreams of being a CEO, not a wife.
Why can't she be both? Why is wanting love or partnership suddenly...
That is McBain's core argument. By saying a strong woman can't want love, you're just putting her in a different box.
Yeah.
You're saying that emotions and vulnerability and romantic partnership are weakness. You are devaluing the very things that many women and men actually want in their lives.
It's funny because some of the best modern characters like Moana or Merida from Brave, they didn't have love interest, and that was great. It totally fit their story.
It was refreshing.
It was. But now it feels like it's a mandate.
Yeah.
Like every female character has to reject romance to prove her feminist credentials.
Right. It's fine if it fits the story. But when you take a character like Snow White, whose original strength was her kindness, her nurturing nature, her softness, her domesticity, and you strip all of that away to make her a generic warrior leader, you're basically saying that those soft traits are invalid.
You're saying they're worthless. You're turning her into a man in a dress. You're saying the only way to be a valuable woman is to act like a traditional male action hero.
Essentially, yes. You're validating the old patriarchal idea that only masculine traits like fighting and leading and stoicism are the ones that are valuable. McBain argues that a truly feminist portrayal would allow a woman to be strong and want to bake a pie or fall in love. That's true freedom of choice.
So we spent a lot of time tearing apart what doesn't work. We've looked at the arrogance, the lack of flaws, the hatred of men, the rejection of femininity. But obviously, women do want strong representation. We don't want to go back to the 90s.
Of course not.
So what actually works? What's the solution here?
The solution, according to the source, is actually very, very simple. Humanity over strength.
Humanity over strength.
Just write a human being first. And the prime example of this, the one that proves you can make a massive blockbuster with a female lead that everybody, men and women, love, is Katniss Everdeen from The Hunger Games.
Katniss is the gold standard. Absolutely. Think about her. Is she a girl boss?
Not even close.
No way. She's a mess. She's terrified the whole time.
She is constantly afraid. Her hands shake. She gets hurt badly, repeatedly. She fails to protect people she loves. She can be cold, unlikable, and really difficult. She suffers from severe PTSD
And she survives by the skin of her teeth, not because she's magically better than all.
Not at all, and that's why we rooted for her. I remember reading those books and just feeling her anxiety in my bones. When she finally won, it felt like a miracle.
Because she went through absolute hell. Her strength wasn't a default setting. It was a reaction to trauma. It was earned every single step of the way. McBain argues that audiences don't cheer for perfection. They cheer for resilience.
We want to see someone get knocked down and get back up again. If they never get knocked down in the first place, there's no movie. There's no story.
Exactly. And we are seeing some modern successes that follow this same formula. McBain mentions Elena Belova from the recent Marvel project.
Oh, Florence Pugh's character. She's fantastic.
So
She's incredibly competent, sure. She's a trained super spy. But she's also weird. She's funny. She talks about her trauma. She loves macaroni and cheese and her cool vest with all the pockets. She has a distinct messy personality.
she feels like a person, not a poster.
Exactly. Or look at shows like Fleabag. Or a classic character like Bridget Jones. They're walking disasters, but they are iconic, beloved, strong female characters because they own their messiness. They're relatable.
So the formula for success really is to just write women with the same complexity that we've afforded male characters for decades.
It's that simple. Allow them to screw up. Allow them to be petty. Allow them to be wrong. Allow them to be warriors and lovers and mothers and jerks, sometimes all at once.
The quote from the source that really stuck, make her a great character and the strong part care of it.
It really is that simple. Stop trying to write strong female characters and just start writing complex female characters. Stop worrying about whether she is a good role model and start worrying about whether he is a good character.
So to wrap this all up, the girl boss era of Hollywood feels like it's failing hard because it prioritized a political mess over goods. It prioritized perfection over.
And in doing so, it ironically alienated the very audience it was trying to empower. True equality in cinema isn't about placing women on a pedestal where they can't be touched or criticized.
It's not about being perfect.
It's about letting them be down in the mud with the rest of us, flawed and struggling and, human.
It's about having the freedom to be mediocre or to be a failure and still be the hero of your own story. So here's a thought to leave you with as we finish up. If Hollywood actually listens to this critique, if they stop writing women as these perfect, unassailable statues, what kind of news stories does that actually open up?
It's an exciting prospect, isn't it?
It really is. I'm thinking, could we finally get a great female villain or a true female anti-hero who is just delightfully, unapologetically bad?
Not misunderstood or secretly good?
No, not secretly good. Just a Joker-level agent of chaos who we love to watch so wonderfully bad at being good.
Now, that would be true equality.
That's the movie I want to see. Thanks for diving in with us today.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you next time.